Alright, hello everybody. Friendly Red here, and welcome to my initial impressions of Zenless Zone Zero, or ZZZ, the latest game from miHoYo, HoYoverse. miHoYo have been supplying some of the highest quality mobile games of the last few years, with releases like Genshin Impact in 2020 and Honkai Star Rail in 2023. Now, just a bit over a year on from that, we have their latest creation, Zenless Zone Zero, which from now on I'll just refer to as its abbreviation, ZZZ. Usually, multiple Z's in succession indicate sleep or boredom, but in this case, it's quite the opposite. ZZZ is easily the most action-packed, flashy, and fluid of all of HoYo's games to date, and from what I've played thus far, it's not only my personal favorite game of theirs yet, but I think it just straight up is their best game they've ever made. Before we get into my specific reasons as to why I like it so much, it's probably best to give a brief rundown of what the game is, and what the general gameplay loop looks like. So, with that being said, ZZZ is a character action game set within a near-future urban world known as New Eridu. In the world of New Eridu, phenomena known as hollows exist, which distort reality around them and are filled with monsters known as the ethereal. While these hollows are usually extremely dangerous under most normal circumstances, various different groups and organizations have taken it upon themselves to delve into them, be it for the sake of investigation, hollow slaying, treasure hunting, and so on. Due to the ever-changing nature of hollows, it can be incredibly difficult to traverse them, but one way to do so is with the use of a proxy, which is where the main character comes into play. In ZZZ, you'll take on the role of Phaethon, a legendary proxy that actually consists of siblings known as Bell and Wise. The siblings lead double lives in New Eridu, running a video rental store as their public occupation, while also doing the whole proxy shtick on the side. Much like Genshin and Star Rail before, you'll get the choice to have either the male or female MC be your main controllable avatar, but one thing I really like that ZZZ does is not completely throw the other MC to the side. In fact, regardless of which one you choose to play as, the other will still constantly be present in the story, and even still active in dialogue and other activities you do on the side. It's a nice touch, and I really like the continued banter and interactions you get to have with the siblings, making it so you still kind of get to experience the other choice you could have made. So that's a quick rundown of some basics on the world and playable characters of ZZZ, or at least the main playable characters, because Bell and Wise only account for half of the package. Proxies are guides for hollows, though typically don't have any sort of combat skills on their own, which is where agents come into the picture. Or a hollow, I guess. Agents are the main focus of ZZZ and its marketing, and rightfully so, as they are the more interesting characters you'll be controlling in ZZZ. Sure, Bell and Wise are good fun on their own, though they're mainly there for overworld traversal and for the story, of course. The agents in ZZZ are individuals that usually operate in distinct groups or teams, carry out jobs for people who hire them for their services, and they are who you'll be entering hollows as and fighting the ethereals within with. The rest of the explanation will probably be easier if I talk about the gameplay loop now, so yeah, let's do that. Basically, ZZZ consists of three different types of gameplay. First, you have overworld traversal and setup, which is handled by the siblings, Bell and Wise. Secondly, you have hollow traversal, which is also handled by the siblings, though it controls and looks quite a bit different from the overworld sections and combat. And thirdly, you have combat sections, which are the main selling point of the game, and easily the best part too, no doubt. Overworld gameplay is fairly simple, consisting of small enclosed maps that house different NPCs to obtain quests, info, and buffs for hollow exploration from. You'll be spending a lot of time here in between main story missions and intermissions, but honestly, it's not all too exciting to discuss, especially compared to the gameplay you'll find within hollows. So I'd rather focus on those instead. When it's time to get into hollows, you'll be presented with a choice of story, combat, or explore. Story missions are the full 5-course meal, and will pretty much always consist of voice dialogue sections, comic book-like animatics, fully animated 3D cutscenes, puzzles, and of course, combat. In comparison, the other two options, combat and explore, will offer exactly what they label. Combat missions consist of nothing but throwing your chosen party of agents right into the heat of things. On the other hand, explore missions will task you with using Bell and Wise's proxy guiding skills to traverse a hollow through their eyes mainly, which usually involves simple puzzle solving, with some occasional combat mixed in as well. And let me just say, the hollow exploring that you see here looks much more confusing and convoluted than it actually is. It's quite busy and strange looking if you've not actually played the game, but once you try it out, it's pretty easy to understand. And while not as exciting or engaging as the combat, it does offer a nice change of pace in the game, and it also is a bit more important in the game's roguelike side mode, Hollow Zero. But of course, the main draw of the game is the combat, and yeah, it's absolutely stellar. On the surface, it's very simple and easy to understand and control, as you essentially only have a repeatable standard attack, chargeable special attack, dodge, and an ultimate ability. This simple control scheme is elevated by the feeling and presentation of it all, however. No matter what you do, or what character you do it with, every single hit, dodge, switch, and so on is gorgeously animated with satisfying feedback and sound behind it all, or at least on PC with a controller, which is how I'm playing the game. You can for sure just button mash most of the time and get through most encounters no problem, but there is so much more depth and variety you can get out of it should you choose, either by carefully picking a balanced selection of agents for your team based on their elemental affinities and roles, or by learning the agent-specific passives or skills they may possess. So, on the gameplay front, ZZZ delivers the goods. Obviously the combat is the bread and butter of the game, but the other activities you'll partake in the overworld or through holo exploration aren't too bad either, and do a nice job keeping things fresh, especially during longer play sessions. Aside from gameplay, I think it's worth mentioning that ZZZ's presentation is also top-notch. miHoYo never really disappoints here, but I really think they've taken their already great art and animation to the next level. The expressiveness, fluidity, and emotions of each and every character and action are quite eye-catching, and even the menus and NPC vendors get a lot of love here too, featuring some great animations, 2D artwork, and more. The music is also quite good too, with a mix of more laid-back and chill tunes for the overworld, and more energetic, frantic tunes for combat. I'm not really all too knowledgeable on musical genres, but the music gives off similar vibes to what you might hear in something like Jet Set Radio, Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, or The World Ends With You, which I'm quite a big fan of. With a solid and decently varied gameplay loop, super colorful and fun characters, an interesting neo-future urban environment to traverse, and some bangin' tunes to explore and slay ethereals to, ZZZ delivers, and it's safe to say that my initial impressions of the game are very positive. However, it's not all perfect, and I do want to take just a brief moment to go over what hasn't worked out as well for me so far. I'm not going to spend too much time on this point, as I made it pretty clear in my Red's radar for this month that I don't like this mechanic, but yeah, the gacha system. It's here, and I still really do not like it. It just doesn't feel good having characters you want to play as locked behind random chances of attaining them or not. Thankfully, even if you aren't able to get one of the agents you want from a gacha pool, you're not entirely out of luck, as it seems that if the character is important to the story missions, you'll be able to play as or with them for that story section. So, if you're only interested in the story and won't be playing too much side content, kinda like myself, then this is a pretty decent compromise. My only other complaint I can think of is something I can only describe as menu bloat. Now, I don't think this is necessarily an issue exclusive to ZZZ, but man, there's tons and tons of different menus in this game, sometimes with multiple layers in each. I've gotten used to it now mostly, but starting out it was quite a lot and could be somewhat confusing at times, especially as someone who doesn't have a lot of experience with miHoYo's other games, and mobile games as a whole. My biggest gripe with the menus, though, is when it's time to collect rewards. You'll constantly be given all kinds of little currencies, trinkets, and so on as you play the game and perform various tasks, and I find it pretty annoying how you have to manually go to all kinds of different menu sections to collect all of them. Like, there's usually a button you can press on that specific menu you're in to collect all rewards present, so why couldn't they have just applied that to literally all pending rewards you have across all the different menus? It may seem like a small thing, but again, you'll constantly be giving things as you play, so it does kind of add up and get pretty annoying, at least to me. Other than those two things, that's all I really have to say with regards to the negatives of the game, and even then, those weren't all too bad, I suppose. Except for the gacha mechanic. That mechanic needs to go sit in the corner and think about what it's done. I was also considering talking about the story I've played through so far, but I feel it's kind of hard to fairly judge it, as, for one, I've yet to get through all of what's currently in the game, and two, due to the fact that, well, it's ongoing, and will continue to change over time. From what I've played so far, though, it's serviceable enough, and I quite like how story segments are presented, but I wouldn't say it's mind-blowing or anything. At least not yet. Who knows, maybe it'll really pick up later down the line with patches, but for now, I'd say it's just okay. Okay, well, I think I've yapped on long enough about ZZZ. I quite like the game, and I continue to enjoy my time with it. It's the miHoYo game I've played the most so far, and the only one I continue to keep playing, if that's worth anything to you. Of course, the game is free to play, so there's really not a lot stopping you from at least trying it out, if you're interested in doing so. But I think that'll do it for this video. Made it to the end? I thank you for watching. Continued viewership and support is greatly appreciated. As I advised last time, make sure to stay cool and hydrated during this peak summer heat, and as always, I'll see you next time.